It's Monday the 6th of April from the MEN newsroom. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News and these are today's headlines. The mum who stabbed her two young sons to death here in Manchester last November pleads guilty to manslaughter. Also coming up, bouncers stage a march through Manchester because they're scared of working after dark.
Great turnout here tonight. People shown their respect and also that they're going to stand up to any violence in our city.
And we meet the schoolgirl so worried about the recession, she's written to Gordon Brown about it.
I don't blame him for the credit crunch. I just blame him for not doing what's right and listening to people and sorting it out.
Good afternoon. First, this lunchtime, a mum's pleaded guilty to the manslaughter of her two young sons here in Manchester. Police found the bodies of two-year-old Romario Mullings Sewell and Delano, who was only 3 months old, at their home in Cheetham Hill last November. With more on this from outside the city's Crown Court, here's Nina Warhurst.
Well, you might remember it was a case that shocked people across the country. Police were called to Kilmington Drive in Cheetham Hill, where they found the bodies of two young boys. A post-mortem showed they both died from a single stab wound to the chest, and today in court their mother pleaded guilty to the manslaughter of them. Well, John Shearhouse from the Manchester Evening News has been following the case. John, guilty of manslaughter, not of murder?
Yes, the two charges of murder were put to her in court, and she stood up and she said not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility.
Because, of course, she was sectioned, wasn't she, immediately after the incident?
Yes, she was. She remains in a secure hospital unit, and she'll remain there until April the 28th, and she'll come back here and she'll be sentenced. There are a number of other investigations continuing into what happened in November, and one by the Independent Police Complaints Commission, and another into the role of social services. She had contact with social services, I think, in the months and years before the deaths, and also I think on the day, I'm right in saying, with the police who visited her home.
And what was her reaction in court as she was taken down?
Well, she stood up, she smiled at friends and relatives in the public gallery, and she blew them a kiss, and she was led away by 4 nurses from the secure unit who were with her.
OK, thank you, John. Well, as he said, many questions have been raised about the role of social services. The family was known to them in the months leading up to the boy's death, and also about the police response time. We'll have more on that at 5.
A hospital has said sorry to a terminally ill gran for sending her home after both their X-ray scanners broke down, meaning they couldn't diagnose her brain tumour. Health campaigner and nurse Pat Morris was sent to Wythenshawe Hospital for a CT scan by her GP when she started suffering from fits. Doctors told her to go back in 3 weeks, but the 68-year-old decided to pay for a private checkup, which resulted in her getting emergency treatment. We've had a statement in from Wythenshawe Hospital which says, "We have robust contingencies which operate over a 24-hour period and every day of the year, and to reassure Mrs Morris, we shared with her the contingency plan." The senior doctor who was responsible for Mrs Morris's care during her admission has offered his apologies. We have since instigated rapid review clinics which ensure planned investigations are performed, reviewed and actioned within a week of discharge. The Trafford Centre has been closed because of a police chase involving armed robbers. They were involved in a raid in West Yorkshire which then ended up crossing the Pennines. A roadblock was put in place on junction 10 of the M60. One man was arrested near the shopping centre, which was then shut while officers searched for the second one. Bosses there say they're hoping to reopen as soon as possible. The death toll in the Italian earthquake has now reached 50 and is expected to rise further. 5 children are among the dead. Buildings collapsed and cars were flattened with rubble when the tremor measuring 6.3 struck at around 3:30 this morning local time. Rescue workers are working their way through the debris, searching for survivors. Rules have just come into force that mean an extra 4.5 million parents can now ask their bosses for more flexible working patterns. The law now applies to families of children under 16 rather than under 6 as they did before. Researchers say half of parents think they get on better with their child if they could fit in spending time with them around work better. We've been asking people here in Manchester how much of a difference they think the changes will make.
The job that I do at the moment can be done in flexible hours anyway. I mean, it can even be done from home. So I don't think it'd affect the work that I do at all.
I don't think they're practical. I think that it'll make a change around the edges, coming in later, leaving later. but there will be a core in the middle of the day where everybody will still be working.
But I've got quite a flexible job anyway, so I can sort of change my shifts and do lates and earlies and things like that. So I do think it will affect a lot of women, though, that don't have such flexible working times.
And have to have kids for the extra hours off, I think, don't you?
Yeah, because I've noticed that a lot of people that do have kids, they do get basically like a first priority.
Well, let's get some more on this now. We're joined by Emma Cross, who's an employment lawyer from Pannoni Solicitors. Emma, good afternoon. First of all, what exactly has changed from today?
Well, until today, you could only apply for flexible working if you had a child aged under 6. From today, you'll now be able to apply if you have a child aged 16 or under, meaning that anybody with a compulsory school-aged child can apply for flexible working.
So what does that actually mean? What sort of a difference will that make to parents?
It can make a massive difference. It can allow them to adjust their working hours so that they can do the school drop-off, school pick-up, do term time only working. You know, any sort of kind of flexibility that they need to care for their child.
What do families actually have to do to take advantage of this?
They must put in a written request, and it is quite detailed as to what they actually have to say to their employer. So I would suggest that they take a look on the government website, and that will give them the correct form as to what they need to tell their employer.
I suppose where you might get involved in such cases is where perhaps things aren't going according to plan. What sort of comeback do parents have if they think they're not being given the opportunity to work flexibly enough?
Well, they do have the option to bring a tribunal claim if they think that the employer hasn't considered their request properly, or that the reasons that the employer has given, which are quite specific, are incorrect or based on incorrect facts. They also have the possibility in some situations of bringing a sex discrimination claim.
And are they quite easy to prove?
It depends. Sex discrimination can be quite difficult to prove, but in terms of employers making assumptions that flexible working won't work, it's quite easy to show statistics to prove that most forms of flexible working can fit into most modern workplaces. OK, Emma Cross from Pannoni Solicitors, thank you very much for joining us this lunchtime.
Almost 3 times as many youths were fined for being drunk and disorderly here in Greater Manchester last year compared to 2007. Figures show 120 16 to 18-year-olds were cautioned. Police say they're trying to address the problem. Nightclub bouncers have staged a march through Manchester to protest over their working conditions after the death of their colleague Kaleem Rafiq. He was stabbed to death in Rush Home. His family joined a large group in Exchange Square to call for extra protection and raise awareness of the dangers they face.
I spoke to Kaleem's dad, and he said to me that my only son, his only son, got murdered, and I hope that will teach you a lesson.
We want to stand side by side with the security people across Manchester. They've got an extremely difficult job, and we're going to stand up to any violence in Manchester. This is not Chicago. We don't want any mobsters in this city, any mobsters that cause problems. We want the courts to bring them to justice. So we've got the police, the council, community in Manchester, and all these security people. We're going to stand side by side, and obviously I want to express the condolences of the council to the young guy that was murdered. It's obviously going to be a court case, but it's a great turnout here tonight. People shown their respect, and also that they're going to stand up to any violence in our city.
Well, Manchester's always been renowned as one of the safest cities in the country. This incident last week was an isolated incident, and it did happen outside the city centre. But we take very seriously concerns being raised by the door staff in Manchester, and we want to listen to the concerns being raised, and we want to work with the door staff, with the police, the council and the door staff to try and find the right solutions for these problems they're facing.
5 men have been charged over Kaleem Rafiq's death. The men, who are all from Longsight, have been charged with murder and attempted murder. 4 other men who were arrested have been released on bail. A woman's been raped by the driver of a taxi which picked her up from Stockport. The 20-year-old was attacked after the vehicle pulled over on New Bank Street in Longsight early on Sunday morning. She'd been picked up at around 3 o'clock, but during the journey explained how she didn't have enough money to get all the way back to Manchester. Pub landlords are taking their fight over pub closures to Westminster. More than 600 have had to shut since 2005, and the problem's worse here in the North West than anywhere else. 3 MPs have now put forward a motion calling for the government to recognise how hard it is for pubs to be tied to brewery deals when they're competing with cheap alcohol in supermarkets. A mum of 3 from Wythenshawe who claimed £28,000 in benefits she wasn't entitled to has escaped being given a prison sentence. Sylvia Rogers had claimed that she was penniless but managed to build up savings of £60,000. She turned up to court in socks with the motto, "Show me the money" on them. The judge described the case as extraordinary and told her to do 240 hours community service, and a civil case will now start to recover some of the cash. A memorial has gone on display that honours 80 Greater Manchester police officers who've lost their lives while on duty. Some date back as far as 1819. The roll of honour is at the city centre's police museum.
It's a great pleasure to unveil.
Basically, the idea first came to me when I was in Vancouver. I was on holiday and we went into the police museum in Vancouver, and there in a quiet corner was a board very similar to this, showing all the people who have died in the metropolitan area of Vancouver. And it suddenly dawned on me that there was nowhere in Manchester with a similar board. There's a memorial garden in Sedgley Park, but it's not open to the public. There's one in, there's a memorial board in the Police Federation office, but it's not open to the public. And at least by doing this, the members of the general public who visit the museum can in fact see the sacrifice that people have made.
A policeman based in Wigan has been given a special award for his courage and bravery. PC Paul Hollywood has been awarded the High Commendation for pursuing a masked gang with a colleague through Bolton. It came out later that they'd robbed a shop in West Horton. They were tracked by the Force helicopter to a house where they were arrested by armed officers. Right, Mike's here now with the Lunchtime sports headlines. And Mike, I guess it's all about Glossop North End, isn't it?
It is indeed, James. Thank you very much. And it's all about Glossop, as you say. Unbelievable scenes at Glossop's tiny Surrey Street ground on Saturday as they edged past Chalfont St Peter in their FA Vase. That was a semi-final second leg. The first leg ended 3-3, but in that game there was no hint of what was to come on Saturday, with the sides locked at 2-2 at the end of a breathless 120 minutes.
Long looking for Hodges. You get it back here. It's a good looking ball. What a chance this could be in the opening stages. What a start for Glossop. The Hillmen are in heaven. And it's Rick Bailey to give Glossop North End an incredible start and an incredible lead. Opportunity for John Carroll to swing this in. Use the wind for those red shirts to attack this ball inside that Glossop penalty area. There's plenty forward in red. And it comes. It's not a bad delivery. It's a collision. It's in. It's in through Lewis. But there was a massive coming together between goalkeeper and defender. Hodges. Terrell Lewis was right there. Luxton's header, only fine Tasker. Just to switch it out towards Ben Stack. Tasker's got his arm up, Stack goes for goal. Keeper's fumbled it, and it's in the back of the net. Chalfont St Peter take the lead in this second leg for the first time. What a time to score now. It's not a bad delivery. It's scrappy, the keeper comes. Back in it goes, it's pushed away, and over the bar it is by Rick Bailey. And it comes, it's deep, it's back across the face, it's in! It's in! Unbelievable! Just look at the scenes! Can you believe this?
So with the scores tied 5-5 on aggregate, it all boiled down to that dreaded penalty shootout. And even then the teams couldn't be separated, with the first 10 penalties successfully converted. But then came the real drama.
Togwell. He's had a good game in midfield. And a brilliant start from Gotham. That's a fine save. So Rick Bailey put this away. And you go into Wembley, scored the first. He scored here. The dream is still alive for Glossop North End, when he was so very nearly taken away from them.
So that's Glossop through to a May the 10th FA Vars final at Wembley, where they'll face Whitley Bay. But success for Hillman could be something of a double-edged sword, with manager Steve Young now firmly in the sights of many a Football League club, which is something I put to Glossop chairman Dave Atkinson when he joined me on this morning's breakfast show.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, obviously, people will look at him as what he's achieved, you know, small budget, you know, worked hard working, great training, you know, facilities. Does everything right, you know, very professional. Him and Terry, you know. Terry's keen on everything being spot on, you know. If the shirts aren't ironed, the kit man gets a rollicking. And it's right, you know, we're trying to keep it right through the club. Everyone's doing a professional part, and it's all come together. And I think now, obviously, you know, we're all reaping the rewards, hopefully.
How will you approach the game, just quickly? Will you go down there doing your homework on Whitby, or will you go down there, concentrate on your own game and let them worry about you?
I think the latter. Let them worry about us, yeah. You know, we'll do probably do a little bit of research over the next few weeks, and then just worry about our own game.
And we'll have a special Wembley report about Glossop North End in Wednesday's news bulletins. Elsewhere, well, United are back at the top of the Premier League. That was after yesterday's last gasp 3-2 win over Aston Villa at Old Trafford. 17-year-old Federico Macheda, the man with the vital winner. Also yesterday, City's on-loan striker Joe, he scored twice as Everton beat Wigan 4-0. While in Rugby League's Carnegie Challenge Cup, there were wins for Salford against Hull and Oldham, who beat French outfit FC Lesignan Corbière 60-30. That's it from me for now, but there'll be more sport for you in our early evening news bulletins from 5 o'clock.
Mike, thank you very much for the update. Much more still ahead on the Lunchtime News. Find out which celebrity has been promoting free swimming in Wigan, and we meet the schoolgirl who's voiced her concern to Gordon Brown over the economy.
I sat at my desk and I wrote to him because I was a bit worried about the future and what he was going to do and if I was going to get a job or not.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. Don't forget, if you go online, you can watch this programme again at channelm.co.uk. You can also see lots of our other reports, including a check on how a major regeneration plan for Urmston is coming on, and why takeaways in Bolton are going to face much tougher restrictions. That's at channelm.co.uk. A young schoolgirl from Stretford's got so worried about the state of the economy, she's written to Gordon Brown about it. The 11-year-old had one or two suggestions for sorting out the problems facing the country and decided she had to pass them on to the Prime Minister. Beverly Walkden has been to meet her.
From Westminster to Stretford, 11-year-old schoolgirl Bethany Ross didn't expect a response from Gordon Brown, but to her surprise, the Downing Street envelope fell through the letterbox just days after she penned her letter laying out her fears for the economy.
What made you want to write a letter to Gordon Brown?
I sat at my desk and I wrote to him because I was a bit worried about the future and what he was going to do and if I was going to get a job or not.
So, Bethany, do you blame Gordon Brown for the credit crunch?
I don't blame him for the credit crunch. I just blame him for not doing what's right and listening to people and sorting it out.
Bethany's mum had no idea her daughter was writing directly to the most powerful man in Britain.
She's very aware, and she sees the posters that the debt is going to be passed on to the children in the future and that sort of thing. And yes, I mean, it's a long way off till this credit crunch is sorted out, and it is the children that will inherit it.
What did you think about the response from Gordon Brown?
I was pleased that she'd had a response because I think the young children are entitled to a view.
Bethany, who wants to be a policewoman when she grows up, is worried young people won't be able to find a job when they leave school. She says the recession has left many young people feeling anxious about the future.
So what do you think he should be doing for young people?
I think he should go around schools, local schools, and ask them what they should do, because it's not going to affect him so much and it's going to affect them.
Bethany says she's now looking forward to a more detailed response from the Treasury. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
A man's been shot at while waiting to pick up his wife in Prestwich. A gunman in dark clothes on a BMX bike fired the shots at his car at about 3 a.m. yesterday morning. Police have described it as an attack on an innocent man who was minding his own business. Work starting on a £600 million upgrade of Manchester's tram system. Several stops in the centre of the city have been closed and shuttle services will be running for the next 5 months. Pictures showing plans for a big revamp of Bolton train station have been made public. They show a new entrance, ticket hall and concourse, which should be finished by next year. Work's due to start in the next few months. Now, you might remember last week we told you how people in Wigan can now swim for free at any of the borough's swimming pools. Well, the council, keen to promote it, have now brought in a famous face, and just be thankful he decided to keep his clothes on.
In the morning, love me swimming, in the night, I love me swimming for free. You do it when you like, there's nothing to pay, it's free every day. I love my swimming for free, swim this way.
Wigan Life, that's the council and the NHS have got together, and they're giving free swimming for all, so we can all get fit, we can all keep well, and we can all go swimming for absolutely nothing. All you've got to do is register for a lifestyle card that you can pick up at your local swimming pool for £1.50, and you and the family for the whole year can go swimming. It's fantastic.
I love my swimming for free. Victoria, go!
OK, good luck to you all. Don't forget, it's swimming for free. 5 pools are all open, ready for you. Free of charge, swim where you like. Right now, time to risk life and limb. It's Keith Chegwin for Channel M. Oh!
Well, yesterday's sunshine pretty much looks to have disappeared, but to be replaced by cloud. Let's see how the rest of the week's looking now. Here's Michelle Eagleton.
Well, not a bad day across Greater Manchester. We're seeing highs of between 11 and 12, so really quite mild out there. For the afternoon, it is staying mainly dry, and that's into the evening as well, so not bad if you have got any plans to be out and about tonight. But is it going to stay like that? Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast, because I do believe there is a little bit of rain on the way, so best get your brollies out, because tomorrow we have got some showers and also a lot of cloud as well. Bit of a difference on Wednesday. We are going to see some sunny spells just creeping their way in, but Thursday and Friday, mainly rainy. Hate to be the bearer of bad news.
This is Channel M, our top stories. A mum from Cheetham Hills admitted the manslaughter of her own 2 sons. Jael Mullings stabbed 2-year-old Romario Mullings Sewell and Delano, who was 3 months old, in the chest. They were found at their home last November. A hospital said sorry to a terminally ill gran for sending her home after both their X-ray scanners broke down, meaning they couldn't diagnose her brain tumour. Health campaigner and nurse Pat Morris was sent to Wythenshawe Hospital for a CT scan, but was then told to come back in 3 weeks. Those are the latest headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. We'll have much more on all those stories with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock tonight, but from me and the rest of the Lunchtime team, have a very good afternoon. Bye-bye for now.